Hello and welcome to the Monday evening.
You love ball like I do. After Dark's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome in. It is the Field of 68 After Dark on a Friday. It has been a pretty darn good Friday night of college basketball with all the tournaments going on. I am Chris Childers. The great Marquette Golden Eagle Jerel McNeal is with us tonight, and the man, Jeff Goodman, is here decked out in his Indiana Hoosier hat, ready for a little football tomorrow. But tonight we talk basketball. It's been fun. There's been a lot happening really all day long, all week. We've had a lot of stuff going on all day. I know I've loved it. Being a Middle Tennessee alum, I've been able to watch my guys at lunchtime the last couple of days. But tonight, speaking of the state of Tennessee, the Tennessee Vols look really good, and they win the Baha championship. They just get after Baylor early. Chaz Lanier, I think he had, 7 threes in the first half. He was just absolutely on fire. Finished 9 of 16 from the out, or no, 7 of 10 from the outside. Was 9 of 16 overall. Had 25 points. Slowed down a little bit in the second half, but by that time, Baylor played better, but it was out of reach and then some. Tennessee was so dominant early. Jerel, what did you think, man? I mean, Tennessee, a lot of people wondered without Dalton Connect, who would they be? And Chaz Lanier said, watch me. I could be the SEC Player of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. And he put on a awesome display early on in that game tonight. In the first half, obviously he knocking down 7 trays, and Tennessee just really jumped on. They really jumped on Baylor from the get go tonight, and it was really what I was afraid of coming out of the game yesterday. With the double OT game against St. John's, it was such an intense, high-strung game. So you kind of got to be expecting a little bit of fatigue to set in on a back-to-back like that on the next night, having to come out and play a tough opponent like Tennessee. But to Tennessee's credit, man, they had no let up. They came out with a ton of energy. They made shots early, and Baylor kind of did the opposite, man. And they really couldn't cut their water off at all there. Obviously, you got to give them credit because they did come out and try to fight the second half. They didn't just lay it down, and they could have lost their game by 40 points easily. But they came out and fought, but it just wasn't enough tonight. And Tennessee looks like they found the right pieces to put into place after losing a big piece like Connect, man, and they're off to a hell of a start.
They can guard, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, they guard, man. That's the other part. Like, obviously, Chaz Lanier gives them a little bit of what Dalton Connect gave him last year, right? The North Florida transfer can, like Jerel said, I mean, he can shoot. Last couple games, he's been unconscious shooting the ball. But I think it's the defense still. Like, that's what we've kind of regarded the Vols and Rick Barnes' teams about over the last few years. And, it's still the case. You look at what they've given up, and, they beat Louisville by 20 or 22 and allow 55 points to them. And Virginia, which is offensively challenged anyway, they scored 42. Today, Baylor gets 62. And in those 3 games, those 3 teams are shooting 27% from 3. And 33% from the field against them. So, again, it's still Tennessee's defense, to me, that I trust the most. But you've got a veteran point guard in Zakai Ziegler who, again, just takes care of the ball for the most part other than that Louisville game. He's gonna take care of the ball and move it. And Akpara has been good defensively. So listen, they're better than I thought. And I feel like I say that every year, guys, right now. Yeah. They're better than I thought in the regular season. And then again, it's all right, what are you going to do? They were better in the tournament last year, but can they get to a Final Four? That's the big question. Maybe they can. Like, I didn't even have them in the combo going into the year as a Final Four contender, but maybe they're not that far off.
They've played pretty quality teams early. They've played Louisville, Baylor, and last night played a Virginia team from the ACC, and they've been damn good defensively every single time. Plus, Chaz Lanier gives you that legit scoring threat who can go off. So maybe they are a team. And for Tennessee, that's just the missing piece, getting to that final weekend. I was giggling, though, as I was listening to you guys talk, as I was listening to the Goodman and Jerel, because we see this Tennessee team be so good, and they've recruited well, and they've used the portal well. And I just remember, I was going back in my mind to the conversations about Rick Barnes at the end of his tenure at Texas, and how the game passed him by, recruiting passed him by. He didn't want to play the AAU circuit anymore. And to see him, Goodman, kind of thriving in this modern era is sort of poetic, is it not?
It is. I mean, I think I wrote a column on it when he took the Tennessee job, or maybe the end of the Texas run. And I just said, like, he just seems disinterested now. He didn't want to go out and recruit anymore. And I think Tennessee kind of, the way it went down at Texas, I think kind of gave him a little chip in his shoulder to try to reinvigorate him a little bit at Tennessee. And obviously, you know, you look at Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, they got him going, right? And you need that momentum. He had that momentum early, and he's been able to sustain it. And, you know, I don't even think their NIL is like insane this year. It was pretty good a couple of years ago when NIL started. It's not insane right now. But again, 2 years in a row now, he's gotten like a bargain in a way. Dalton Knecht was a major bargain, guys. Like, a lot of people didn't even want him. I think it was like $250,000, $300,000 last year. And Chaz Lanier wasn't a crazy number either. So he's found a way. His staff's done a hell of a job.
Yeah, and I think just to speak to that as well, Jeff, they're not spending a ton of money necessarily in the transfer portal, but somebody's doing their homework and kind of finding, you know, a little bit some diamonds in the rough here, man, with these type of guys who may not necessarily break the bank open with NIL or deals from their collective, but they're guys that fit into a specific role on their teams. And for the most part, they've done a good job of retaining most of their own guys in the core of their teams as well, with guys like Ziegler coming back. You know, this is his third or fourth year as well. And, you know, Justin Gainey was great tonight, another guy that was there last year. So, you know, it's a combination of both. They're not going crazy in the portal, but they're getting the right guys and kind of filling needs for what they need for their team to be successful.
It's kind of cool to see Rick Barnes just in this whole era where the world changed and all these other coaches are getting out, and he was so wildly criticized at the end of Texas, and to see him have this kind of success is cool. I mean, I love it for Barnes, and he's a good dude, man. He really is. He's a guy that's easy to root for. For Baylor, that's another guy, Scott Drew, who you want to pinch his cheeks every time you talk to him. I saw you guys, you and Dawson talked to him the other day, and he's just, you know, he's kind of like a basketball coach, a howdy doody, but they've lost a couple of games now. They got just smoked night one against Gonzaga. They do have some nice wins. Beat St. John's last night in the thriller. Beat Arkansas. So kind of a mixed bag. Lost the game. Got off the, you know, mat really kind of icky early, but played better in the second half. But Jerel, any concerns about Baylor early on?
Yeah, Chris, I do. But I don't think it's anything that's catastrophic necessarily. The loss versus Gonzaga right now, the way that Gonzaga looks, I'm not holding it against them too much. They look like a well-oiled machine right now, and they're going to be hard to beat for anybody at this juncture. But you know, just seeing the way that they play and the styles and the way that some of these new pieces fit in. My biggest thing is just, and I think that's one of the staples with good teams with Scott Drew, Even when they went all the way and they wanted the team that they had, man, they have a great defensive team. That's usually a staple. They really usually guard the ball really well and make it tough on opponents defensively. And right now, I think with some of the new guys, they lost a little bit of their steam with that. They're having trouble guarding the ball. They're not as big, as they usually are historically, and had that giant in the middle. Although Omir is really good, and he does a lot, but he's still a little bit undersized to be a 5-man. And they got a couple guys off the bench as well too. But I'm a little bit concerned too, man, because offensively they're gonna have to figure it out. I think just after watching what has been, at least I've seen them play at least 2 or 3 games. VJ Edgecombe is a guy who they're going to need him to grow up relatively quickly here. And I'm not saying that necessarily in a negative way. I think he's an ultra talented kid, NBA talent for sure. But the shot selection is bad right now. And he's not shooting a great percentage really from anywhere on the floor, from 2, from 3. And he's getting a lot of situations where he's forcing up some bad ones, and I think a lot of that is kind of even trickling down to the defensive end. It's hard to play, running uphill when you constantly got guys that are shooting shots that may be unexpected or tough shots. And they lead just to guys not running back hard on defense or whatever it may be. But they need him to score. They need him to be aggressive. I think they just kind of got to figure out with some of these new perimeter guys, how it's all going to work out so that they can get him to be a little bit more efficient with some of his shot selection.
Inconsistent, Chris. I mean, they're just inconsistent. I don't know. I don't trust them yet. And I saw him in the preseason, and I was, love Norchad. He plays so hard. VJ plays hard too. I think Jeremy Roach is a good piece. I don't. Again, I don't know if he's a point guard. I think Rob Wright is probably their best answer at the point guard spot, or maybe playing those guys together. They just don't have a lot of depth that you trust, right? Langston Love was a top 50 kid coming in as a freshman. He's been hurt virtually his entire college career. If he can get back on track, I think it'd be a big difference. But I just think you're so reliant on those 3 guys, and the big kid Josh is okay up front. I don't know. I just don't know if the pieces fit together and the depth is there for me for Scott Drew. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of inconsistency with them this year, because you're so reliant. Like Norchad, you've seen him defensively. Like, he's been a mess at times. And then other times he's been pretty good. And I wonder if it's Jerel that he's exerting so much energy and has to on the offensive end too, that it's – and he had some bad habits in Miami too. Let's be honest. I just watched Miami 2 days in a row here, and it's like watching AU ball right now.
Especially after the season that they had last year. So I'm sure it was some bad habits that kind of carried over from that as well too. But like all I said is I do got faith in Scott Drew. I don't think it's anything that they can't fix, and I still think that, like you said, they don't have a ton of depth, but just from a talent wise and a piece wise, they got enough pieces still to be a really good team. They'll be a tournament team, I think, for sure, and possibly a team that if they stay healthy and keep it and get it rolling at some point and shore things up defensively, that they might be able to make a deep run. So.
That's a key, though. Healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, healthy for them is going to be key.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
Tennessee wins big over Baylor, 77-62, wins the championship at the Baha Mar, the third-place game today. St. John's doing a nice job bouncing back after a heartbreaker loss to Baylor last night. They beat Virginia handily, 80-55. R.J. Lewis was pretty damn efficient, 7 of 14. 18 points for St. John's. Coach Pitino, a nice bounce-back win, Jerel. What'd you think about the Storm tonight?
I was excited for St. John's. I really was. And obviously we talked a little bit about it with the lead in with Baylor, man. But, coming off a tough loss the night before, a heartbreaker in the game, really they should have won. They were up something crazy with a couple seconds left on the clock. I forget what it was, but I watched the end of that game as well. So heartbreaking game. And, a lot of times with these type of tournaments, once you end up on the loser side of the bracket, it's really easy sometimes for teams that don't have character and leaders to kind of roll over and be like, oh man, the hell with this. who cares? We don't want to play this game. Everybody's ready to go home. But they came out tonight and they pretty much dominated. It took a first couple minutes and they took took some punches back and forth with Virginia, but eventually they got it going and they just put on the clinic tonight against Virginia, who looks terrible by the way. But that's a different story. But I was excited. I was excited for St. John's. I was excited for St. John's because the Big East needed this. The Big East needs another these couple teams to kind of pick it up here in the non-conference and get some good wins. And I think they'll be in the top 4 for sure in the Big East. But I think they got a chance, man. Luis looks really impressive. They got a dynamic backcourt with Richmond and Smith, man. So I think going into conference play, they're going to be just as tough as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it wasn't so much that they beat Virginia because Virginia, like Jerel said, they stink right now. I mean, they don't have enough firepower. But just the fact that they responded, and you knew they were gonna, right? Rick Pitino wasn't going to allow them not to respond. And again, Kadari Richmond, you put him out there, you knew he and Davion Smith were going to come back, and they're tough guards. That's what those guys are all about, is toughness and grit and everything like that. The biggest thing that I wanted to see, really from the Johnnies so far is the perimeter shooting. And it was there tonight. They made enough of them. And, to me, if they can do that, this is a Rick Pitino team that can make some noise in the NCAA tournament. Last year, I anointed them as a contender just because of Rick Pitino. They didn't have the talent. They had Ivy League dudes. They had Ivy League dudes. They weren't talented enough. Now they got real dudes. And you put real dudes and tough dudes, guys that fit Rick Pitino, his personality and his style, and that's what these guys do. They're gonna have a chance. And they listen. They should have beaten Baylor. They had them. They had Baylor.
Yeah. I was about to say he got some guys that could slide their feet now. It wasn't that the quote he had last year. He got guys that are slow laterally. He had a year to go get the guys who could slide the puppies a little bit now. So I'm sure it's exciting for Coach Pitino, man. And like I said, the Big East needs it though. So I was glad to see the bounce back win.
Oh, he's got dudes now. He's got legitimate college basketball players, and they certainly go. Hey. Yeah. You know what? It's working, and Pitino has him excited there in the big city, in the Big Apple. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot to talk about. We had a huge matchup tonight outside of that's still going on right now that we'll talk about a little bit later with Duke and Arizona. A lot of those tournaments going on, a bunch to get into. So we'll do that next right here. Stick around. It's the Field of 68 After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
We're back here, Field of 68 After Dark. Chris Childers with the great Jerel McNeal and Mr. Jeff Goodman. And I love seeing Goodman in the hat and the Indiana cap. He's completely embraced it with his daughter being in school there. It is absolutely fantastic to see the enthusiasm, but lots of college basketball tonight. It was a fun Friday. If you're a loser like me and you got nothing to do on a Friday, you had something to do because you had a lot of college basketball. I think I went to the grocery store, but outside of that, it was watching hoops all night long I was impressed. That game between Nebraska and Creighton, first of all, those schools are what, like 45 minutes apart, hour, something like that. It's not too far. And Nebraska runs that state. Now, it's a football-loving state, but the football program hasn't given them much to love. The basketball program, certainly Hoiberg's done a nice job. We know what Creighton and Coach McDermott has done. Basketball's kind of become a heartbeat in that state. Big upset tonight. Nebraska takes out Creighton 74-63. This was an interesting game. Ryan Kalkbrenner has been absolutely outstanding to start the season, but tonight's didn't do much of anything. And Creighton shot 32% from the field. They were 28% Goodman from the outside as Nebraska takes them out. The significance of the result to you, Jeff, is what?
I think it's mammoth. I mean, especially when you go back to, I remember, I have Fred Hoiberg kind of dead and buried a couple of years ago as a coach in Nebraska. It was about a year and a half ago, and I think they were like 10-13 or something like that. And then they went in a run to finish the season. I think they restructured his contract at the end of the year. I think he took less money to come back for another year. And then last year, they were good. And listen, let me say this, first of all. Fred Hoiberg might be the nicest human being of any coach in the country. Like, he is that good a guy. Everybody loves the mayor. Everybody loves him. So everybody's rooting for him to win. But again, he had to retool this thing. And he lost one of his best players, the kid that transferred from Bradley before the season this year, Rick Mast. He's out for the year. So I was like, they're done. They're going to have no chance this year. But they brought in some other transfers, and they've been pretty good so far. But to go to Omaha, it's not that, again, you win this one in Lincoln, it's a nice win. It's a hell of a win. Not a nice win. It's a hell of a win for Nebraska. But you go to Omaha, which is a really tough place to play, and you beat a Creighton team that, again, is ranked. We're talking about threatening to win the Big East. And you do it with Raleigh Worcester comes over from Utah. You got the kid Burke, who didn't, do a whole lot at UCLA last year, but I know Mick Cronin loved when he brought him in. Connor Esigian, remember, he was benched last year at Wisconsin. He takes this kind of, I guess, group of misfits to some degree, and they go and beat their in-state rival. This is mammoth for Fred Hoiberg, absolutely mammoth. And it creates some questions with Creighton. I'm going to see him next week in Vegas at the Players Era. And at the end of that game, I don't know if you guys saw, but Stephen Ashworth, who's kind of their number 2 scorer, he went down with the ankle injury, had to be helped off, and it didn't look good. So we'll see what the status is of Ashworth.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Nebraska, you got to love Hoiberg, like you said. He embodies everything you love about a college basketball coach, and I'm sure those guys love to play for him. They played their butt off defensively, and they shut down Ryan Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner's a stud. He's the big reason why they were picked to do all those things, Jeff, you said. Jerel, how did Nebraska do that? Because Kalkbrenner, he's hard to shut down.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure if this was just a game plan thing on Nebraska's end, because for a guy of Kalkbrenner's stature, a guy that's, a multiple-time defensive player of the year, and at the end of the day, he's been in college for a while now. He's their leading scorer going into this game, and, just came off like a career night a week or two ago. Am I reading this right? He had 1 field goal attempt, but I watched the game. But I really didn't pay attention to like how much he scored. I knew he didn't score a lot, but I was like, when I seen the box score, I'm like,
hey, dude, I know, me too. That's why I didn't read it.
I'm not sure how that's possible.
Right.
I was like, this can't.
But here's what I'll say about Kalk. Here's what I'll say. He had 49 points in the season opener, and I'm not sure which one's. Probably the 49-point performance was more surprising than him only taking 1 shot, because he is known for his defense. He's passive. He's too good a kid. Yeah. He doesn't demand the ball. And I think part of it's obviously on Creighton here, and part of it's on Ryan Kalkbrenner. You can't, especially when you've only got 3 guys on this team that can score: Pop Isaacs, Stephen Ashworth, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. It's on Kalkbrenner. Like, he's got to be a little bit more of an MFer.
Yeah, you got to. And at some point, that's what I said, even with Ashworth and, him and Isaacs kind of, did everything that they could do to kind of carry the load tonight. And Isaacs got it going for a little bit. And Ashworth made some shots, but I think he finished with like 7 turnovers. So he wasn't as solid with the ball as he usually is. But, you expect one of those guys to eventually, at this juncture with the team that they have to, hey, Kalk, what you want to run? I'm coming to you right now. What can we do to get you a touch? I don't care. Let's get you to the free throw line. Let's run pick and roll. I'm just going to throw it up regardless of what happens. He's the biggest guy on the floor. So for him to have one shot attempt and, he's in theory your best player, one of the most dominant players in college basketball. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, on the flip side of that, give Nebraska credit. They were really impressive. And to be honest with you guys, the game, I watched pretty much the majority of that game, and it really wasn't close. They handily beat the hell out of Creighton. And Creighton was, trying to make pushes and runs in the second half to get the lead back under 10. But every time they did, Bryce Williams or Juwan Gary just ended up coming out and making a big shot. And like you said, I love the addition of Connor Sejan as well, too. We all kind of been waiting on him to break out. We know he can really shoot the ball, and that helps them replacing a guy like what's the kid name, Tomi Naga from last year, who really helped them stretch the floor a little bit as well too. But I think Nebraska's going to be good. I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people in the Big Ten. So obviously Creighton got some things they need to think about, but I'm sure this is just going to be a one-off. Like, I can't imagine they have any more games where he's going to get one shot attempt to have 2 points.
Jerel, if Ashworth is hurt,
is out
next week, they could be in trouble.
Yeah,
they could be in trouble in that event
point.
Next week.
Yeah, they are in trouble if he's hurt. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Huge statement in Omaha. There's no question. And that is a tough place to play. They love their Creighton Blue Jays in that building. And you got to give Nebraska and Fred Hoiberg a lot of credit. Arkansas and Kentucky played tonight. Mark Pope, 5-0. They have that banner win earlier in the year against Duke. 108-59 tonight against, to be fair, bad. And I mean bad Jackson State team. But they handled their business, and they looked like they were having fun in the process. John Calipari, he left Kentucky to go to Arkansas. They played tonight against UALR, Arkansas Little Rock. They won 79-67. Let's kind of take a snapshot. 2 programs, SEC, great basketball programs, Jeff, both proud. What'd you think tonight?
Again, you just look at it and you say to yourself, all right, like, what does Kentucky do? They're smooth. They move the ball. They score points, right? They are playing a style of basketball that is, basically what we should be playing in 2024. And then you look at Arkansas, and it's like sometimes it's like watching, somebody go to the dentist, and they don't run great stuff. It's one-on-one. There's no real point guard who makes people better. The biggest thing that I still am baffled by is Jonell Davis. Looks like he's completely lost. I know he was hurt in the preseason, but you're talking about a guy who had 2 points tonight. 2 points against Arkansas Little Rock. To me, he's one of the best scorers in the country. We saw him at FAU the last 2 years and what he did. And you could put the ball in that dude's hands. And I felt like he would fit John Calipari in that system or non-system or lack of system or whatever the hell you want to call what he runs or doesn't run. But yeah, Jonell looks completely lost. And again, I think part of it is they've got too many guys that are ball dominant guards that need the ball in their hands and don't make each other better.
Yeah, and then 2024 is kind of not the way that, this new wave of basketball is. Everything is, for the most part now across the board predicated on stretching the floor, being able to shoot the ball, spacing, ball movement, you know what I mean? Just constant motion and cuts and things like that. So obviously, they got some things that they need to work on, but at the end of the day, we've been saying this for years now before even Cal left Kentucky. Um, I don't know. Do we think it's ever going to change? They got talent, and like you said, right now, I think they kind of, like you said, lacking a guy that kind of brings everybody together and gets guys shots and things like that right now. So they still trying to figure that out. But in this climate in college basketball, just having the talent, especially when it's young talent, it just doesn't win as big as it used to, man. Getting just 5 stars is not enough. It's not enough anymore. So it's a tale of two teams. And you look at Kentucky and they're a million different sets. You got no idea who's going off for 20 on any given night. They all are older guys. They're all physically stronger. They all understand and have great basketball IQ
And they move
and
the
fundamental
ball. They
skill
move
sets.
the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's
It
just
ain't
a
that
tale of two
hard.
teams right
It ain't
now.
that hard. Jerel, we're gonna talk about it later, but like I watched Drake tonight, and I can't wait to talk about them. Hopefully, we have a couple minutes later. But man, like Vandy, those two teams, there's a reason they're in the finals here in Charleston. They move the basketball. You want high IQ players who can make shots, who can make life easier for others, and that's what Mark Pope does. And Cal just has put together a collection of talent, but not a collection of players that fit well together, in my opinion.
That's why they wanted him out. That's why Kentucky was ready. They were tired of it. They were like, listen, you can have all these NBA stars, but we want to win games here. We want to make a run in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, exactly. It's early, okay? We got to put all that in perspective. I'm just shocked at Janelle Davis. You mentioned it tonight. He was 1 of 5 with 2 points. I mean, we've seen this kid go to the Final Four. We've seen this kid be an absolutely big-time threat in big moments. Now, is it just being uncomfortable? Like, Jerel, you played this game at a high level. Does the light come on, or is this just not going to work?
I don't even know if it's even that deep. It's also something that I'll say that I'm accustomed to, but not in the college setting. Like, this is such a new dynamic because it's like, man, I played with the same guys for the most part for 4 years, or guys that were there for 3 years if you came in a year after me. Like me, Dominique, and Wes played for 4 straight years together. So it's like, you don't have a choice. You build synergy that way, man. Like, you get to know each other. You're accustomed to each other's game. You know where you like the ball at. You know what guys are going to do. You kind of know what they're thinking on the court at times. When you're just jumping around, and I don't mean all these guys are just jumping around, but they essentially had to build an entirely new team. He took some of the guys that were either coming into Kentucky with him or were at Kentucky last year. Some of them didn't go with him. Like, you know what I mean? They only even get Jonelle Davis because, the thing that happened at Michigan. Like, you know what I mean? That was kind of some later in the game type stuff. And then essentially you just end up with a sum of parts and you're trying to figure out how everything meshes together. So I think he'll end up being fine, but is he ever going to look like how he looked playing alongside Elijah Martin? I doubt it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they had a great team, not just for 1 year, but the last couple years down at FAU. And it was partially because of those guys got used to playing with each other and they had a genuine appreciation for one another's game, and they kind of thrived off of that. So you can't just kind of make that type of stuff up, throw ingredients in the pot and say, it's gonna work right away. You kind of got to let it stew and marinate for a while before you see any results.
All right, let's get back to the Big Ten. We talked about Nebraska's big win a minute ago over Creighton. We got some news off the court that Aaron Bradshaw, the big guy, the 7'1", 5-star stud, is not with Ohio State participating in team activities. Jeff, I don't know if you know anything about it, but this is a big hit for Coach Diebler.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I talked to John about him a lot in the preseason. Jake, I'm sorry, not John. Sometimes I do that with Jake and John Diebler, the brothers. obviously he was happy to get a guy with that talent in the program, and he didn't play a whole lot of Kentucky. I thought he'd be a one and done, to be honest, watching him and some of the All-Star games, McDonald's games, just the way he moved for his size, 6'11", and he can shoot it, he can block shots, he can run. He looks the part, but there was some immaturity with him at Kentucky. He was hurt in the preseason, if you remember, his freshman year, so he was way behind. He looked like a deer in headlights when he was out there. So he transfers to Ohio State, and Diebler's excited to have him, and he's been really up and down so far this season. And now he's gone, and he was really counting on him. And we don't know the specifics. We don't know the specifics of what it is right now. And, I'll try to do some reporting on this in the next day or two, but nothing yet as far as the reason why he's out. But he's out indefinitely, and he was somebody, again, that has a world of talent and potential. Was he going to be consistent this year? Probably not. But he's much needed for this Ohio State team because they've got guards, guys. They've got guards. What they don't have is productive front court players. Sean Stewart's a good transfer, but he can't really shoot. He can't spread the court. Aaron Bradshaw was a guy that, at his best, a versatile big who could step out, stretch the court a little bit, and a really, really high-level athlete.
Yeah, and it's gonna end up being a huge loss. Hopefully he's not out for an extended period or anything like that, and that he's able to get back into the fold. Because, like you said, Jeff, when I saw that he was going to Ohio State after leaving Kentucky, it was an eyebrow raiser for me. He's a kid that I got a chance to see for a long time on the EYBL circuit. And like you said, I thought for sure he would be a kid that would be in and out of school. All the physical tools, a legit 6'10", 6'11", with a over 7 foot wingspan, and can, like you said, gifted, can face up and shoot the ball. Guy has great touch around the basket, and actually used to be a really good shot blocker and kind of a rim protector as well too. So hopefully things work out for him. But, as of right now, Ohio State is really going to suffer. And I think they were going to be one of the really sneaky good teams in the Big Ten as well, too, man, because I'm a huge fan of Parrish and, Bruce Thornton. I think he's probably one of the best point guards in the country. So he was kind of that missing piece that they needed to kind of compete with some of these other teams.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We have a final in Tucson. Cooper Flag and Duke handling Arizona 69-55. Flag with 24 points. We'll break it down right after this break on the Field of 68 After Dark.
Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app.
All right, we're back here, Field of 68 After Dark on this Friday. Chris Childers with the great Jeff Goodman and Jerel McNeal, the Marquette Golden Eagle star, in his day there with the program. And Jerel was a lot of fun to watch. I'll tell you what, a lot of fun to watch tonight. We had some great college basketball. The biggest marquee game was the one that was in Tucson. Duke on the road, taking on Coach Floyd in Arizona, and they beat him 69-55 was the final score. Cooper Flag was outstanding. He was absolutely off the charts in this game. 10 of 22 shooting, 24 points. I think I said Floyd. I meant Lloyd earlier. You know what I meant. It's late. But for Duke, Jeff, a very nice, convincing win. We kind of doubted them a little bit against Kentucky earlier. This was a nice road win for them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was their defense as much as anything. I mean, they held Arizona, and Tommy Lloyd is known as an offensive, I don't know if genius is the right word, but a hell of an offensive coach to 55 points. And they've got some weapons. Jaden Bradley was great out of the gates for Arizona, but and KJ Lewis was good. But I've always said this, guys, as Caleb Love, if Caleb Love is on the team, as Caleb Love goes, Arizona goes. And Caleb Love, again, I know I've been hard on him at times, but he was 3 for 13 tonight, 1 for 9 from 3, and he was kind of invisible for the first, 25, 28 minutes of the game. He didn't look like typical Caleb. Carolina Caleb is what I call him, right? Carolina Caleb is the one that's going to either shoot you to a win or shoot you out of a game. He wasn't even Carolina Caleb. He was just like out there Caleb. And he didn't look like himself. He didn't. And Tyrese Proctor was great early. Okay. You look at his stat line and you're going to be like, whatever. He had 8 points, 3 for 11. But Tyrese Proctor was really good defensively, set a tone, and he made some shots early, moved the ball, was assertive. When it mattered, and again, they had to establish themselves early. Duke did, especially in the defensive end. I thought Proctor was great, and Cooper Flagg's always good defensively, guys. He missed a lot of bunnies early in the game, but, he does everything, so it doesn't even matter. I don't care if he goes 2 for 9 or whatever he started, 2 for 7 from the field. The dude just makes everybody better, and he doesn't force them. Again, he just kind of, he missed some shots that he probably will make and normally makes, and Caleb Foster was good in the second half. I mean, Con Knippel was good in the second half when it mattered. They're just really good. And to win at McHale, I went to school at Arizona, guys, and McHale's one of the more difficult places to play in the country. I don't know if you ever played there, Jerel, but really tough place to play. Yeah, really tough.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head, though. I felt like just right away that Arizona just really wasn't that engaged into the game, and for whatever reason, Caleb Love came out initially super passive, and like you said, Duke kind of just set the tone with that. But it was make no mistake about it, this was a slugfest for the better part of the game. Neither team really shot it great. There weren't a ton of guys who had big nights. Bradley was good, Flagg was good. And outside of that, I think, KJ Lewis kind of got it going a little bit, but for the most part, everybody else was just, it was a defensive battle, it was a defensive game, and you got to get Duke credit because I'm not sure going into the year with the mix of the guys that they had returning and the young guys that they had coming in that you would say that they were going to win these type of games. But an impressive win because it was gritty win. It was an ugly win. And sometimes you're going to have to do that. But, I think the cherry on top of all that is that, it was a true road game. And like you said, Jeff, it's always hard to win on the road, especially in hostile environments like that against high-level teams like Arizona. So hats off to Duke. That's a major bounce back for them. And we kind of got to keep our eye on Arizona moving forward, man, because they didn't look great again. And I think this is the second game, where they kind of
they have no low post presence like Krivas.
Yeah,
they don't throw it into them. Not that Baha was a guy that you could throw it into that much either, but I don't know, they're just missing something.
You had to account for them, though. You had to account for them.
Right? Yeah. Krivas doesn't scare anybody, and Bradley's been terrific. But I feel like unless you're and Pelle Larsson was a guy that was super important to them because he was like a connector. He was a guy that didn't need the ball in his hands necessarily. He moved well without the ball. He defended. He was just that versatile dude that you didn't worry about. Now, KJ Lewis has some of that too. But I think this group is still trying to kind of figure themselves out. and Tommy Lloyd's trying to figure them out too. But I don't know. And their transfers, guys, didn't give them anything tonight. Trey Townsend from Oakland, who was awesome last year, all year, and in the NCAA tournament, he didn't do anything. And the kid Del Orso from Campbell, like, didn't give him anything either. And the freshman Carter Bryant was just okay. So, like, if Caleb Love doesn't show up, I just don't know where they're going to get their points from against good teams. This is no longer, guys, they don't go through the Pac-12 anymore. This is not the Pac-12, the crappy Pac-12 that it's been lately. They are now in the Big 12. It is not going to be easy every night for them.
No, it's not. I just don't understand. Caleb Love was awful. Like, you look at this game, Cooper Flag, the Stars for Duke, they played great. They showed up on the road. They played defense. I would think Caleb Love would really want to play well against Duke. I mean, he was at Carolina. He knows the rivalry. Like, you would think this game, Goodman mattered to him, and he was non-existent.
Yeah, and I remember being there last year at Duke. You know, this is the back end of the home and home. And Caleb was really good. I remember going up to him after the game last year and saying, man, like, your defense has gotten a lot better. And apologizing to him because, I don't know, I felt like I was probably too harsh on him, you know, the year before. And I said that. I said, listen, I'm sorry if maybe you thought it was personal. It's not. I just have higher expectations for you. And I do. Like, we've seen the best of Caleb. And that's the problem. That's where I get frustrated. I think a lot of people get frustrated with Caleb Love because the best of Caleb is, like, virtually unstoppable. But, like, my biggest thing is I hate the step back threes. I would much rather him go to the basket. And he did it, I think, late in the first half. He hadn't done a whole lot, and he got to the basket easy. And if he can do that and get out in transition and run, that was one area that Duke did a great job on tonight, to be honest. They did not let Arizona in the first half. Early in the second half, Arizona got out a little bit, but in the first half, they gave them nothing in transition.
Yep, and nine of his 13 shots tonight were threes. So he was 1 for 9 from the three, and 3 for 13 from the floor. It's just like, you know, with a guy like that, you're too good and you're too experienced to know, like, after number 5 doesn't fall, it's like, all right, time to put my head down and go at least let's go search out, get some fouls and try to, you know, draw 2 and get some of these other guys some easy open looks or some drop-offs around the basket, you know. So, but like you said,
2 free throws.
As he goes, they're going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You need those as rim breakers too, man. So,
no doubt about it. All right, so I want to get into the ACC overall. We were talking about this a little bit off the air earlier, and Duke we know is Duke. North Carolina's North Carolina. We have now, 6, 5, 7 game sample size at this point. Do we like anybody else? Like Pittsburgh 6-0. Does that matter? NC State, Stanford 5-0. Does it matter? Is this a 2-team league, Jeff Goodman, or is there more depth to it?
I mean, there'll be more depth to it, but if you look at it, it's a little scary right now, right? I just saw Miami, these last 2 games look like absolute garbage. I mean, it was an abomination, to be honest. That bad. Yes, it was that bad. Drake picked them apart yesterday, and today was Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State's not even any good. Miami just, like, they don't guard. They don't run anything. They're not playing together. And we thought Miami might be a bounce-back type team, right? Virginia looks awful. We've talked about them already under interim coach Ron Sanchez. Obviously a tough deal for him. The Cuse, they lose. They kept it close against Texas Tech. But, like, if you're Syracuse, you're not trying to keep it close against a decent Texas Tech team. Notre Dame lost to Elon today. Elon. Billy Taylor goes back to his alma mater and beats Notre Dame. Virginia Tech lost to Jacksonville, right? Wake has been okay, but they lost to Xavier. Georgia Tech lost to North Florida and Georgia. Like, SMU lost to, I think, Butler and Mississippi State today. Like, there have just been some missed opportunities and bad losses so far overall for the league. And, luckily Duke beat Arizona today. At least they'll take some, focus off some of those teams. But, Carolina, they go to Maui. It's going to be an important trip for them. Right now, they're playing against Hawaii. They're winning early here in Hawaii on their trip to Maui. But those two teams got to be really good. Pittsburgh has looked good, guys. Pittsburgh's got one, I think, tomorrow against Wisconsin in the final of the Greenbrier. That's a big one, really big one. And Clemson, I think, will be okay, but they lost to Boise in a game that would have been nice for them to win for the league. I just think, there's not a lot of depth. Boston College isn't very good. Who have I forgotten about? Who have we not talked about, Jerel?
I'm trying to think of Florida State.
SMU.
Yeah, SMU.
Stanford. Yeah.
I mean, we're not expecting a whole lot out of Stanford or Cal. They've both been okay, but we're not expecting anything out of those guys. And that's what I'm saying. It's just the problem is, here's the problem. The problem is going to be, like we've seen before with the ACC, with some of these other leagues, you make your bed in November. You really do. You make your bed in November. And now these teams are going to go in, and we're going to hear about how much better they've gotten from November to February.
Right.
But how do we know when they're beating up on teams that didn't do anything in November and December to prove it? So all you've got are resume wins against Duke and North Carolina potentially. Who else are the resume? Pittsburgh has to beat Wisconsin. They really do. I mean, that Pittsburgh's going to be a big one. NC State, I don't know how good they are, but maybe they can do something. Louisville's got to do something in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
that's huge for the league. Huge.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that one. I think it's kind of like it happens every year. It's going to be a top heavy league. I do like Pitt, so I agree with you there. But they obviously, got some work to do, and that'll, like you said, that'll be a huge game if they can get a win against a Big Ten team in Wisconsin, who look like they might be pretty good too. But it'll end up getting to conference play. These teams will start beating up on each other, and we'll begin to overvalue some really bad teams in the bad ACC, and I'm not gonna go too far because I'm a little bit concerned about my Big East this year as well, because they haven't looked exactly great. So it's but I can call a spade a spade. So it's just it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great right now. The ACC is gonna be top heavy again.
The Big 12, and the SEC look really good. So they're going to be. Yeah, those are going to be the two best overall leagues. They're going to be.
SEC's been fun. I'm with you. And the Big 12's been high drama already. Break time. We'll come back. I want to hear about Charleston. I want to hear about the Vandy. Mark Byington, 6-0. Drake, you love him. Let's talk about it next when we come back on After Dark.
Love them.
Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
After dark on this Friday night. Saturday, some places, I'm in the Central Time Zone, so we're still here on Friday night, but lots of tournaments going on all over the country. We talked earlier about about Tennessee winning the Baha, but you have the Greenbrier, you have the Myrtle Beach, you've got Charleston, you've got UKG and the Kentucky and all kinds of stuff going on. Jeff is in Charleston. He saw Drake tonight. He has been waxing poetic about that basketball team and the way they moved the ball. They not crushed, but handled Florida Atlantic 75-63. You loved it, Goodman. What'd you think?
I've fallen in love with a kid named Bennett Sturts. Literally fallen in love with this kid. He's a 6'4" sophomore, junior point guard, and now he's one of 4 kids who came with Ben McCollum from Northwest Missouri State. So they're all D2 kids, and 4 of his top 5 players came with him. The leading scorer was out of eligibility, or else he probably would have come too, and he was their leading scorer and leader from the team. So he basically brought his next 4 best players with him, and they are his 4 best players at Drake, and they are now in the championship game of the Charleston Classic. And what I love about this team isn't just that, again, it's D2 guys who are getting the opportunity and taking advantage of it, but they play the right way, man. Like, they move the ball, and this kid Bennett Sturts is just a high IQ point guard who could play anywhere in the country. Trust me. His IQ is off the charts, but he doesn't hunt shots. He just gives whatever the defense gives him. This group has played together. The core, these 4 kids, they play together, so they know each other's game. They embrace their role. And when you ask them about Ben McCollum, who I've heard about for years as an elite X's and O's guy and a great coach, they'll say, like, it's not the X's and O's part of it. It's how he kind of gets us to buy into playing well together. That's his biggest asset. But this dude, I mean, I'm telling you, he is going to make sure that, like, Drake could win the Valley. Drake could win the Valley this year. They're that good, and they've got, fun kids. Like, I'm telling you, you talk to them. I want to find out where they are tomorrow and the off day tomorrow. Like, I want to hang with these kids. That's how much fun I had just being around.
You should. I want to see Goodman just hanging out with the Drake boys.
Yeah. If they watch Indiana, listen, if they go somewhere and watch Indiana out of Ohio State, I'm going to tell them where I'm going.
You can all hang out together at the sports bar, no doubt. Right. Vanderbilt 6-0. Mark Byington, they get a win today over Seton Hall. Jerel, the SEC stacked, but is Vandy better than we think?
They definitely look good today. Now, on the flip side of that, Seton Hall hasn't looked great. We know their team is going to kind of struggle to score as well too. But I think it'll be. I'm trying to be nice here. I like Shaheem, man. So I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice as I can. But yeah, they struggle to score. I mean, they can't throw a rock in the ocean right now. So it was a tough game. But Vandy looked good today. I think they got enough pieces where they definitely they're gonna surprise some people this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they could do the rest of the way. Definitely
some excitement around that program early in Nashville, and kind of much needed after things got a little bit stale under Coach Stackhouse in the past. Mark Byington he's having that early James Madison Signetti effect.
That's right. 16-0 combined out of the 2 of them. How about that?
Pretty dang impressive. I got to tell you that. Like I said, there's all these tournaments going on all throughout college basketball. Texas Tech beat Syracuse 79-74 in the 3rd place game of the UKG Legends Classic. They improved to 5-1. They bounced back after a heartbreaker. They lost by 1 last night to St. Joe's. What do you think about this Texas Tech team, Jerel?
They look really dominant against Syracuse, and Syracuse is another team that's struggling. And give those guys credit, because it's Syracuse's fault. I watched a good portion of this game too. I just don't think they had the pieces right now to be a team that we're going to be talking about here in the next couple of months. But Texas Tech as well, they look really good, man. JT Toppin's been playing well. They got a couple other guys that can really get down and guard and score the ball, and I think they had some 4 or 5 guys in double figures tonight, so they really got whatever they wanted offensively. But they definitely got the talent and the pieces down at Texas Tech to make some noise.
I agree. I don't think there's any question about it. They have a nice little ball club. Also in that tournament, Texas beat St. Joe's in the UKG Legends Classic to win the championship. They win 67-58. The defense, Jeff, pretty locked in tonight for Texas.
Yeah, and listen, this was a much-needed one for Texas. They could ill afford to lose this. Rodney Terry, I don't want to say he's got some heat on him, but like he's got some pressure on him to have to produce now, right? Last year they were good, not great. Obviously did a great job in the interim year. He went to the portal, got some good players, but really, Trey Johnson's the guy. Like he's the guy. He could be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft in June, and he's been pretty darn good for the most part. Been very productive, and the big surprise for me has been Arthur Kaluma. He's had a really good start.
Yep.
Last couple of days he's been good, and Caden Shedrick. They got enough guys. Like they got enough. Julian Larry, Jordan Pope, Weaver coming back. They're deep. Tremont Mark just coming back from the injury.
So
they got a lot. Like I think people are like sleeping on Texas because, and I'm one of them, because I want to see if Rodney Terry can do it with this group. I just think it went from Chris Beard to Rodney Terry, then nobody was a complete Rodney Terry believer, if you want to be frank. Listen, I'll say it the way it is, right? Like I usually do. I think a lot of people are just like, I don't know if Rodney Terry's a good enough coach. But I think when you look up and down that lineup, you go 8-9 deep, and you're like, you know what? This is a good team that people are not talking enough about when it comes to their personnel.
Which might be a good thing for them. Rodney Terry got the job in weird circumstances, and I thought did a good enough job that year to keep it. And we'll see. We'll see how he builds it out. But he certainly has a nice roster, like you said. So maybe they are an underrated team we need to be paying more attention to in the SEC, which is loaded right now. Final thoughts. I want to get your take on some of the other stuff going on in college basketball. We had that Wisconsin game a little earlier against UCF in Greenbrier. We also had Pittsburgh. You mentioned that a little bit earlier. They beat LSU in Greenbrier. Goodman, overall thoughts on that tournament going on and what's going and what's popping out?
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin surprises right? They beat Arizona. Now they're in if they can beat Pittsburgh, whoever wins that game, it's going to be like, okay, you know what? And Wisconsin's ranked now, I think. I know I ranked them, and they deserve to be after you beat Arizona. But if you can double up on that and get Pittsburgh, and, Jeff Capel's a guy that, again, I don't think has got enough credit for what he's been able to do to flip that program now, right? He had some issues off the court early that were really not under his control a few years ago. But last year, this year, Capel's done a really good job. And, he loses a guy in an electric guard last year in Bub and early after 1 year, and he's got another one waiting, right? A sophomore now who came in with Bub and Jalen Lowe, who's terrific and now gets his opportunity. So I can't wait. That's one of the more intriguing games, to be honest, is that Pittsburgh-Wisconsin game. And I'm telling you, whoever wins that, if Pittsburgh wins that, we should be talking a lot more about the Panthers.
We absolutely should. And it'll be a fun one tomorrow. Toast of the night. Let's wrap it up. Let's get into it. Little toast of the night, guys. I will kick it off. I will give my toast to my alma mater, to the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, improving to 5-1.
You can't always wait. You can't always give it to Middle Tennessee if they win. Every night you're on, you can't just because they win.
They win.
What are you
going to the finals? They're going to the finals of a tournament. I'm excited. Justin Porter is 9-12.
I almost went to Myrtle Beach today. I thought about it for a minute. I know, but it's hard for me to leave Charleston. I can walk 4 blocks and go to these games.
There's no reason.
Bennett Starks, I told you, it's a love affair for me with Bennett Starks right now.
Well, I have a love affair with Justin Porter, Blue Raiders. And toast of the night to the Raiders. Go win a championship this weekend.
Who do you got, Jerel?
I'll make sure it's somebody else
I'm
next time.
I'm actually staying in line, and you kind of led me right into it, Jeff. Mine is Jalen Lowe. I got an opportunity in at the end of the summer here to work with him some at the academy. He's one of the kids we had at the academy, one of the college guys, and I think he's dynamite, man. He's an awesome guard, really high IQ, great feel for the game, good positional size, long arms. He finished tonight with 22 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. And they kind of beat up on LSU there, so it was a good win for them, and they got an opportunity to get another big one tomorrow. So that's my toast to the night to the young guy.
Well, listen, I've already given Bennett Sturts enough love. I don't think I need to give him a toast at this point. I think everybody knows, who my favorite player is in the country as of right now. But I'm going to give it to Fred Hoiberg, the mayor, because I just think. Again, like when you come back like that, and he was on every hot seat a couple years ago, and I hated – there's nothing worse than having to do the hot seat, right? Because you're putting good people on there. And and Fred, we talked over and over since, and he never – some guys will call and try to berate me and yell at me and whatnot for putting him on the hot seat. And generally, if you're on the hot seat, you deserve to be in the hot seat. And Fred Hoiberg did at that point. He did. He deserved to be on it at that point. It's hard to get off the hot seat. I almost want to call it like the Brad Brunell seat, because generally Brad was on it over and over and over. Brad's off. Brad's off.
Yeah.
So anyway, for Fred Hoiberg, hell of a win in Omaha against Creighton. Like, man, I'm not sure there's been a better win in the season than that one so far. So to the mayor.
A beautiful toast to the mayor indeed. We are done. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it tonight. For Jerel McNeal and Jeff Goodman, I am Chris Childers. We're back Monday, actually. We got a show on Monday, but we are done on the Field of 60.